the 7th of March. Have a few interesting real estate statistics to give you for Santa Clarita real estate. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Just a couple things we have been watching as inventory has started to increase as we breach 2025. So we got into January, February, we saw a slow trickle of real estate increases. Right when we broke into the beginning of March, just a few days ago, we started that inventory really start to increase. So there's a lot of agents out there getting under contract with sellers. Also, there's a large coming soon realm, properties that are actually poised to be entering the market, but not at this present time. They have up to 20 something days to be able to take a property from being in a coming soon category to actually live on the market. Best way to get access to those, you can go to your agent, say, hey, listen, I want to get those coming soon listings, and then they'll be able to send you those as they enter into the multiple listing service. And that's the only way you're going to get them. Besides that, all active inventory, any of the syndication sites will have that. My site, which is completely unlocked, Santa Clarita, openhouses.com, you can see that. Currently, 566 active units on the market for sale. We have 276 properties in escrow. So these are properties that have already gone through the offer counter process as a counter offer. In some cases, sellers actually just accept the offer as it comes in, signing off on the line which is dotted, but it's going to depend on how the agent scribed the offer and what the agent's asking for. In some cases, they'll put things in the offer that don't apply because it's kind of boilerplate. And unfortunately, some agents don't take that time to go through line by line to make sure they're not sending something that has to be countered. And in certain markets, for you buyers out there, here's a tip: time is of the essence. So if you have an agent that doesn't pack the gear to serve in real estate and they're formulating an offer for you, putting in information that has to be countered, and so be it. There are most instances where I'm getting offers on my seller's listings and I'll have to counter certain things just because the agent didn't do their due diligence follow up with me prior to submitting an offer. There's certain things that the seller's going to need that might not be mentioned in the MLS. They might need a couple days after escrow to finish moving out and other things such as that. But when you get that counter offer, just make sure you look at it if in fact they are going to send one. But don't also get of the school that, well, if you get a counter offer, it's your agent's fault. That's not always the case. It's just usually errors and omissions in most cases where agents kind of fall on that. But again, attention to it. Also, we have in the last 30 days, 154 properties has successfully sold in Santa Clarita Valley City. You want to see all those, Santa Clarita openhouses.com. Now, let me say one thing with regard to buyers. As I talk about the offer, counter offer strategy, sometimes buyers are of the school that, I don't want to get in all this offer, counter offer. I want to just write the offer accepted by the seller. Unfortunately, there are certain things that the seller's going to need that might not be mentioned in the multiple listing service. And even if your agent is super diligent, like I try to be with my clients, they contact the listing agent and say, listen, it's Connor. I'm going to be writing an offer on my buyer's behalf. What are the terms the seller's looking for? Even if I fill those out to the nines, dialed in perfectly, there is cases, most cases, where maybe that needs to be reiterated. Maybe the seller really needs to make the point a second time in counter offering form to make them feel better. It could be a delay tactic as well. There could be other offers coming in. Is that unfair? Yeah, it's a little, it does happen quite a bit. That's why going in with typically is best for a real estate buyer. But again, the offer counter offer process is part of any real estate transaction, and depending on the market and depending on the seller pressure. A lot of people don't talk about this, but if there is a lot of inventory and the market is more a buyer's market, the sellers are going to be less likely to counter back, more likely to just accept offers come in because they want to take it before another house comes onto the market that will be in direct competition with their home. Looking at real estate sellers, it's interesting to watch as some sellers, as we write off, some sellers are of the school that, something else is going to happen. Even when I write offers that are less than what they're asking for the property, I always make sure I back that up with the comparables to show their agent. Now, if the agent chooses to send those to the seller, that's another thing, because it could be a classic situation of over promising and under delivering. But most of the syndication sites, including my local website, Santa Clarita openhouses.com, you can look at the sold inventory and you can formulate as to where your value would be. So if you do have an agent going in, say, oh my gosh, I can get you $1 million all day for your house, just list with me. And you see it online that only in your neighborhood, the only things that have sold have been in the 920s to 950 range. You're going to have to try to now place an additional inquiry with that agent. What do you mean 1 million? Show me how you're going to do it. And it shouldn't be magical or unicorns or cotton candy or rainbows. It should be factual data based in the multiple listing service of properties that have closed escrow in the past 180 days. You want to look at that time frame. In addition, the houses should be in close proximity to yours. Perfect case would be in the same neighborhood. And then besides that, you're going to want to look at apples to apples comparisons. Pretty simple. That doesn't take a rocket scientist, well, less than a rocket scientist, definitely, to figure out values. But then you need to determine how your local market is moving. And that's why when I do my daily updates, I talk about the number of houses that are for sale, the number of houses in escrow, and the number of houses that have closed. That gives us an idea on the properties coming into the market, how many of those properties are being absorbed through the escrow and then, of course, sales process. I'm Connor with Honor. We will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. You can find me at Santa Clarita openhouses.com. There's the enunciation. We'll talk to you soon.